Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, Tommy Swagnutz, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Bo Snail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Last Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Ledrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, the FlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
And still nothing yet.
Went into labour, or no? You said they induced her.
Yeah, she's not even dilating like a half a centimeter right now. And she had a difficult pregnancy with the high blood pressure. A little nervous, but trusting God.
Well, that's one thing to kill the conversation, I suppose.
Well, she was fine, but her moron husband comes home one day and tells her about his sister's friend who just gave birth to a stillborn. So
How
gave my
lovely.
daughter a panic attack. So
Everyone's
she's
got a
been
horror
worried for
story.
the last 2 weeks.
I was about to tell you the horror story of our firstborn, but then I thought, no, you don't need that. So that's why there was a long pause. That pause was going to be filled with my horror story. You know, my wife nearly died, the baby nearly died. It was all very, very scary. But why disturb you with that right at this moment? This, you know, if it comes up.
Oh, well, he already did. Her husband, the moron, put her in fear. She was fine. In the last, 2 weeks, she started, after he told her that. Why would you go home and tell your wife that?
I don't know. That's just silly.
Exactly. So anyway, back to flat Earth. My son is insisting. The sun is made of plasma. That's it. It's been proven. Astrophysicists, why are they going to school for all these high-paying jobs if it's nothing?
Okay. So,
well, there's money in it.
Yeah, because they get paid. What do you want? The whole system's compartmentalized to the point where, you know, you might be putting together something that is claimed to go into space. That doesn't mean that you're on the launch pad. It doesn't mean you're on the rocket. It doesn't mean that the space is real. It just means that you built a piece of equipment. That's all it means. But it's intentionally done that way. That was one of the first things that was sort of discussed by Math Powerland in his videos, the compartmentalization of NASA, because of people's appeal to, well, there's thousands of people doing work in NASA. Yeah, there is. A lot of them composing art. But there we go, that's a different story. You know, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, but not one individual will build something and send it into a claim to be sky vacuum. You know, that's never going to happen.
A lot of people working on movies
I
too and
figured out
shows.
that's just
Yeah, a lot of people
my son's defense mechanism.
You're right, a lot of people working on movies. If you watch a bit of Dilly Gill, he describes NASA as being on the cutting edge of cinematography. And they always have been. There's a reason Kubrick's borrowing their lenses and not the other way around. He's appealing to their technology because their technology is the best of the best of the best. Not their space experience, their cinematography experience. That's what they're on the cutting edge of.
So it's just business, nothing personal.
Perhaps not, because they're lying to us about the entirety of our world. So when you say nothing personal, it's hard to not see it as being personal when they've lied to you about your reality. Now, it's normally addressed from the other side of the coin, which is when people say, what does it matter? People point out that you'll assess other things in your world on their validity if you are open to the idea that you've been deceived on a mass scale, as opposed to the other way around, which is, why do people want to deceive you on a mass scale? And you can't really appeal to the motivation other than control. That's the only conclusion you can ever draw. Well, it's to keep people under control, like most things. Well, okay, that still doesn't tell you the whys and wherefores of why they picked heliocentrism. And in terms of the modern reasons why, well, it's just part of the mechanism now. It's part of the machine, so it's just kept on going. And was it at some point a load of men around a campfire rubbing their hands together going, we will tell the world that they are on a sphere. It'll be genius. I don't know that story. I could invent one. It would be very, very dark.
You don't have to. You don't have to. It wasn't picked heliocentrism. If you go to Isaiah chapter 14, you see what Satan is saying. He's saying, I will ascend above the heavens. I will be like the Most High. And then all of a sudden, man comes up with this heliocentric nonsense, and the sun is worshipped.
Okay, well, if you're saying it's a utilization of the biblical ideas of what Satan is going to present himself as, and therefore we're bowing down in the very literal terms in terms of our angle towards the sun, the 66.6 degrees and all that stuff, we're worshipping the sun in the heliocentric model. It's the sun at the centre, and it's the integral part of our world. And the only reason it moves is because we're turning, etc., etc. So yeah, okay, you can kind of dilute that onto saying that that's what Satan said he'd do, but yeah.
But Nathan, you always say it. Look at how you say the heliocentric, the whole solar system and everything. It's not this stupid little put together thing. Pretty clever.
Yeah, I agree.
So he's saying, I'll be like the Most High. He's exalting himself above the heavens. Now he's got a bunch of people, instead of realizing that the creation that God has created, now we're into Narnia and La La Land and other worlds out there and other planets. I'll tell you what, I was listening to YouTube last night. If I would have heard one more person say that he's the best on the planet or this is the best on the planet, I would have lost my freaking mind.
Yeah, this is a problem. This shouldn't be causing you to lose your mind. But there we go.
Well, it's just that you're in tune to it, so it's irritating after a while.
I can relate.
On a planet.
Yeah, I can relate. That particular thing is something that gets into... But by contrast, Neil, the things that get under my skin and drive me nuts and make me very angry are things like, well, entropy, things breaking around me. That really, really annoys me. For example, yesterday I criticised Riven and said, you're overloading your mic, it's annoying. And I was annoyed because I could hear him clipping. It wasn't him clipping. It was the same bloody amp that I repaired maybe 6 months ago with the exact same fault. Now, I actually realised that was the case and got in touch with the tech and said, I think it's got the same fault. And he's asked me to make a video of it. I'm like, well, you turn it off and on again and it doesn't do it anymore. It's very intermittent. Same fault as last time, but much more intermittent. But that means that you're in a position where you can't trust your equipment. As soon as you know it's doing it, you can't trust it because you're suddenly going, back off your mic, you're clipping. No, you're not. It's my right-hand channel clipping and distorting because it's got a fault that was, I thought, replicated. Now it isn't. So I've gone now back to boxing the damn thing up, sending it back, potentially getting yet another bill when I've already got the projector in for repair. That annoys me and gets under my skin. Now, the reason I've detailed that isn't so I can beg for more PayPals, although smash the PayPal link, I do have repair bills. But I've been doing that for the last straight month. The reason I'm using that as an example is to say that's something that's beyond my control, and other than outlaying more money and actually dealing with it, there's not a great deal I can do about things just breaking. That's how life is. And I forget how long I've been doing the show. In this case with you, it's a similar thing. You're getting irritated because there's nothing you can do about it. It's directly related to a family member, and the family member just isn't taking on board what you're putting down. He's not picking up what you're putting down. No matter how much of it you put down, he just throws on a load of tatty rubbish on top of it. And you're sick of it, right? And yeah, I can relate. But by the same token, you're being at peace with it, you're being cool with it, will be the thing that changes the minds of the people around you. Now, I'm speaking from experience. At first, with my wife, who hasn't in recent times mentioned her being a baller, which was something she liked to have a little poke at. She's my wife, you know. If you want to look at it in that way, we're mates and we behave like that in many ways, you know, in terms of how we rib each other and so on. But without getting into me and my wife's relationship, which is very good, you know, she would poke because I'm a flat earther. Now, that's something that I used to talk about all the time because it happened all the time. Now, I'm at one with it. I'm cool with it. I'm not trying to tell her about this and that and the other. But as I said yesterday, she'll jape about, well, you can think of it as being vacuumed. You know what I mean? She's paying attention to the point where I know when she's asking me about how I'm going to potentially... she gave me a weather book with a load of heliocentric nonsense in. And the way she presented it to me in terms of, well, how are we going to discuss this to Eleanor when we go through this? I can sense that she's consciously aware and doesn't want to poison our eldest daughter in this case because of something that she now knows. It's not been discussed. It's sort of unspoken of. But I guess, that is because I am now at one with it. I'm not trying to pressure her into, well, why do you still think you're on a ball? Well, isn't it so obvious with this example that I'm then, you know, lecturing her with? Now, that's long gone. And as a consequence, I can see a change in her recognising certain aspects of her reality for what they actually are, and occasionally asking me a question that's tentatively posed because she just want to get a great big lecture. So I'm trying to say, in some ways, if I could just chill out about my amplifiers, they'd stop breaking, isn't the case. But if you would just stop pestering, mithering and lecturing your son, it might be the case that if he notices you becoming at one with it, go on.
I don't. That's the whole thing. He'll come up with little things and I'll just throw stuff back at him and that's it. But it's nothing like it used to be at all. So
Maybe things are progressing then. But, you know, you're going to give off a vibe. I'm not going to say auras and hippie nonsense, but, you know, you give off a vibe.
yeah, well, the show's always on. That's another thing too. So even if I'm not talking about it, like I have the show on, or I'll have the after show on later on in the day. So it's still coming at him that way, I guess. So
Dearth mentioned that he might be sending someone our way today. He actually put together a presentation, shockingly enough. So there might be some presenting done by somebody who's trying to win Bitcoin. We might see that. Or we might not.
great.
I might have mistaken what he said in the... Just talk straight through it, Neil, I would.
I'm just going to go on fucking mute because every time you're not talking when I start.
Trying to have a light-hearted reveal that there might be a Thundy on. And I'm taking my time. You know what I mean? I'm just fucking with you, Neil. It's all right.
It gets frustrating because I do not hear one person talk for 3 seconds when I hit that mute button. That's my rule. I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom.
It's fair enough. I know there's an unwritten rule that if you take a pause that is longer than a slight breath, someone's going to interrupt you.
I was just going to say, I'm not getting my hopes up. If they come in, they come in.
On the upside, just to be a bit more positive, I'm very pleased with how the sound is coming along. So I've got started to up my references now. So I was comparing my sound to the sound from a BBC broadcast about some court case that's going on, some guy that's shot people in the States, but the coverage was from a professional outlet that I can say, right, that's their video on YouTube. I would expect it to be of a given standard. So I'm going to now start comparing the quality of my sound to their sound and saying, right, is it roughly the same level? Is it balanced the same? Does it have a similar sort of tonal quality? Those sorts of things. And I'm smiling because I'm pissed off that I might have to send this bloody amp. I know I'm going to have to send it back now. Send him the email and send him the video of the fault. Up until that point, I'm like, it's very rarely happening. It's seriously intermittent. It's just the same fault as last time when I got in touch and noticed it, I don't know, a month ago. But you kind of hope it'll just never rear its head again, right? Until you start telling people off for clipping when they're not. Anyway, on the plus side, I'm chuffed with the sound. I'm pleased with how it's sounding. When I play the show back, I hate any little flaw, and the occasional distortion that I get, I'm just going to have to put down to the fact that there's a lot of processing going on, and there's a lot of different lines with a lot of different processing on each line, and they're all being merged into one through a desk, and then a little bit of other processing after that in OBS, and then going out to YouTube, and then getting compressed. All that sort of stuff is all happening all at a very short space of time, with what I try and achieve is very low latency, so there isn't great big pauses and gaps between people hearing what's said and when it's actually said. There's low latency. So all of these things considered, when there is occasionally a little crackle or something, I just have to accept that is how it's going to be occasionally. And no matter what I do, how low I go with volume, how little compression or how much compression or how none at all I put it on, or if I turn everything off or turn everything on, or nothing seems to make a difference. Just every so often there's a strange crackle. And when I asked sound speeds about it, a guy's a boom mop in Hollywood, basically just a Hollywood boom mop who does a YouTube channel, sound speeds, he got back and was very kind and said, from what I think you're showing me and presenting me on my own video, because I found a bit where it did it on his, he's like, I think it's packet loss. And you're like, okay, given the explanations I've had so far, that's the only one I can come up with, given the amount of things I've tried to resolve it. So when it happens, I'm just going to go, fine, that's just how it is. In the space of a 2 or 3 hour show, if it does that twice or 3 times and it's half a second of a slight distortion that doesn't necessarily even make the thing being said intelligible, fine, I'll just accept it. I'm going to give up chasing down that little bit of distortion and just hope that it's software based, and hopefully the technology will improve and it'll just go away, because I can't seem to find anything that I'm doing wrong to cause it. Anyway, waffle over, that's off my chest.
How's Joe Rogan? You ever see Joe Rogan's podcast? He's got a nice setup, right? I know there's big money in it, but...
Well, Joe Rogan's new setup is in a curvy room, right? I don't know how to describe it, like a cave that's curved. And then... Yeah. So I would assume, based on the construction of it, it looks like it's very, very, very heavy blocks that's used to make that space. I don't know what it was originally, but something that's very well isolated, which is probably why I picked it. There's no sound leakage in or out. And then he's got the same acoustic treatment as me, so he's just got GIK, but he's got criticised because he's used this, like, what's called braids. The pattern's called braids, I believe. And typically it's hung vertically and looks like, what braids look like, hair braids, sort of these sort of swooshes. It's just a swoosh. But when you turn it on its side, someone said, it looks like the inside of a toaster, because he's got it with red fabric, where I've got black fabric, he's got red fabric, which is fine. But when someone points out that particular design on its side, hung horizontally, suddenly looks like he's sat in a toaster. And I looked at the pictures and I'm like, you're right, it does look like he's sat in a toaster. But there we go. He's got the exact same acoustic treatment as I use.
Yeah, because he had Snoop Dogg on yesterday. Well, the one I seen, I don't know, it's the latest one. And they were even putting music over it, like Biggie Smalls, Tupac, and him on a street corner. And it still sounded good.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. I don't know how much that sort of concave surface is going to be working towards his favour. Acoustically, it's bad, because what happens on that shape is it'll focus the sound in to points, as opposed to a convex surface. So in other words, if you had a flat ceiling and then you hung a great big, like, drape from one side to the other, that would form like a convex curve. Well, if that was solid, then what happens is the sound hits it and then sort of disperses outwards, radiates outwards, scattering the sound. Whereas if you've got a concave surface like Joe Rogan's got, it has the opposite effect. It actually focuses the sound. I mean, admittedly, he's got it covered in acoustic panels, so it may not make any difference. He might just be soaking up enough of that very hard surface to not have it do that. But acoustically, it's not necessarily very good having that shape. But there we go. You know, he sounds perfectly fine when I listen back to his show. A bit over compressed, but the way I'm going, I can see why.
How you doing, Tent? I heard you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I was laughing between the Londoner and the New Yorker earlier parts of your talk.
Yeah, I like the sound of my own voice, and Neil was interrupting it. What do you want?
No, it's just classic. That's the show and the pre-show. It's you two going at it over sound or something, and then at the end, oh, okay, and then move on to something else. It's like, what the? These two or something else.
Problem I've got is that
Because I'm not intentionally doing it.
I know you're not.
I know
you're not. And Nathan doesn't understand that sometimes there is a delay, and we're catching that delay just perfectly, but it's not a delay on his side. So
Correct.
It's like
I
weird.
totally get it. It's only things like that I don't appreciate when I'm telling someone off, which is to say that I know I've got in the very low milliseconds of latency between Discord and Skype, or Skype and G+, or G+ and Discord, or me and G+. There's very, very, very low latency. That doesn't mean to say that by the time it's been transmitted to you via G+, descrambled, and then come through your phone in your crap reception area, that it's not got a bit of latency attached to it at that point. So yes, I totally get that. Now, I didn't used to.
Well, it's more than that. You are striving to have the best system at the budget you can do it at, and so you're a perfectionist in that sense, and there's nothing wrong with it. So every little thing you're going to try to figure out how to get rid of if it's like a nuisance. So that's your side there on your equipment and the technology side of it, and then we're just guys here just trying to talk, and we get caught in between you trying to get it perfect and us showing the imperfections.
Yeah. I mean, it's now been 2 years of doing acoustic treatment with me constantly saying and having to say it to my audience, although I'm technically lying to both my wife, my audience, and myself when I say it, which is, this will be the last thing I purchase. And it's like chasing perfection in acoustics is a never-ending thing. In other words, you can keep going and still make improvements. Every little thing that you do makes a tiny little improvement. In other words, a lot of it has to be done to make any improvement, and then a lot more has to be done to make a significant improvement, and then a hell of a lot more has to be done to make a good improvement. In other words, it's a bit like that. So you can keep sort of chasing the dragon in that regard, trying to get to it and never actually reaching it. But that said, I've done it over a period of 2 years.
So few really appreciate it too.
Pardon?
So few really appreciate it as well. Like, you know, a lot of people don't realise. Don't even notice.
It's the other way around. People notice when it's bad. So when sound is bad, people notice and just won't stay around. They just won't watch because it becomes acoustically irritating, and they just tune out quicker. When something's good, people don't notice. They don't consciously say, "Oh, that sounds good." You just, for example, there's a couple of different people that do crime YouTube channels. I won't mention any names because I don't slag any of them off, right? One of them has clearly progressed in terms of his videography and acoustically treated his space. And you can tell as you go through his videos from old to new, the sound gets better, and I know why. That person's acoustically treated in their room as they're getting bigger as a YouTuber. The other just hasn't bothered. Just didn't bother. So you go through all of his entire back catalogue, and every one of them is at about 50 to 60% intelligibility, which is to say 6 out of 10 words you can understand, and the other 4 you can't, because of all the background clutter that's going on. That person just hasn't bothered. Now, eventually, I got so irritated with it, I just unsubscribed from them. This is a big YouTuber, bearing in mind. And it just irritated me. I couldn't make out what he was saying when he was doing his commentary. And after a time, it got tedious, and I'm like, I don't want this anymore. So I unsubscribed. Now, as I say, with the other YouTuber, for most people, they're not like I was at the time, dedicating hours and hours and hours of my day to learning how acoustics worked, and then going out and actually buying products a tiny bit at a time to solve the problem. You just listen to the video and go, and you're less conscious of the fact that it's irritating in terms of how it sounds. You just watch it, enjoy the content, and then move on with your day. So it's more about retention of audience rather than getting somebody to actually overtly say, wow, your show sounds great. No, I just want you to actually hear what I'm saying. If I'm saying, no, you fuckwit, Fundy, I want them to be able to not only see that written in the subtitles because it was clear enough to go through the computer, but really hear my disdain when I tell someone that they're an idiot because they've told me gas go down, go boom, boom like billiard balls.
It's while you're talking, I'm thinking about an experience that everyone's had. Let's say you're in your car, you're driving, and it could be AM or FM station on your car radio, and the content is good, whether it's a song or a talk show, and you're really interested in it. And all of a sudden you get to a patch area where it's just terrible reception, and then you're saying, okay, just a little bit further, it's going to clear up. Once I get away from these power lines, and so because the content is so good, you put up with it, right? But you're talking a little different here. This isn't like you're going to drive away from that bad sound. If the bad sound exists and the provider doesn't take care of it, you're just not going to tune in anymore.
Or you'll tune out after a time, exactly. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Arwin and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you?
I sent you a PayPal and then forgot to tune into your show. I'm sorry, Arwin.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
I thought
Thanks.
it was on my to-do list. I was like, I'll send Arwin a PayPal. Someone sent me money, and I'm like, oh, I'll give Arwin some of it because I know, typically, because I'm e-begging hard, it's because I'm super poor. It's in the middle of the month, and I always consciously think Arwin's probably really poor now too. So that's the reason. But I did it intentionally to go into your show, say, hey, I've given you PayPal, and then listen to your show in the background. I didn't. I ended up contacting somebody about something that went wrong, which I won't talk about in the live show, but something boring with entropy. Anyway, did you have a good show, Armin?
Yeah, I had a really interesting show, actually. With Professor Phil Bell in chat constantly. I was just bringing in new technological innovation for satellites, basically with commercial opportunities. And I really elaborated on it the entire show. And Professor Phil got really uncomfortable over that. It was like constantly making up excuses why it's too expensive, too difficult, and we already have cameras up there. I was like, no, this is different. This is more like a commercial idea. And like, dude, if I be like a executive in some telephone company, I just had to buy a satellite for the telephone services, dude, I would want to have a little camera on my satellite that would be movable, so you could literally look at my own satellite as it is suspended in space, and also be able to pan down and look at the globe Earth live, right? That would be awesome. I would brag to my corporate friends about that, like, oh, check out my satellite, I'm so modern. Like, that would be a business opportunity. So that's what my show was about.
Yeah, it's a shame space is fake and you can't visit a second law of thermodynamics violation to view a globe Earth, and everything we have been presented with was ultimately bunk and lies. But if the Narnia area was real, it'd be nice to take pictures from there and have a 24-hour Narnia feed. Unfortunately, these areas that don't exist can only be theorised and speculated about in terms of how they would exist if we were to go to them. We can't go to the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum, so it's a nice fantasy.
Right, but it's also based on the premise that it is all possible. It would be doable, right? It would be actually really cheap, right? It's not like, oh, you have to attach a telescope to every satellite. No, it could just be a really basic camera. It doesn't even have to be super high res, just basic, normal standard res from now. And it would be really cheap to just add that on to any satellite they would be able to launch right now.
Sure, and likewise, I'm saying if you imagine that Narnia is actually real and we can actually go through the wardrobe, we wouldn't have to worry about the logistics of, whether or not the rope's going to suffer the time dilation strains that, if you were going to use a rope to make sure the safety of the people going through was, maintained. You don't have to worry about any of that. Assuming it's true, you could just send them through on a rope and film with maybe slow motion cameras the process of time dilation as you travel through the wardrobe. Obviously, they wouldn't cost a great deal. Just need some slow motion cameras and access to the wardrobe and somewhere to be able to televise the propaganda thereafter to convince people that Narnia has actually been visited and we have got time dilation videography. Go ahead, whoever that was.
That sounds fascinating, Nathan.
I just wanted to ask a question since Alwyn had him in chat. What does this guy think that he's actually doing with satellites? Does anybody know?
I didn't see a 3-second gap there. Did you? Shout out to Mike 808 for the super chat. Sends a smiley face. Thank you very much indeed, Mike. Go on. What was your question in seriousness? I was more focused on the jape than I was on the question. Go ahead. What was the question again?
What does he actually think he is doing with satellites, this Phil Bell character guy?
I think he assembles them. He's like a satellite building workshop, It's probably, and he probably knows people that still do that.
He said he tracks them.
On his computer. Sure.
Yeah, I track Pac-Man. Pac-Man and their migration patterns. I track them on my computer. Meanwhile, space is fake. So, yeah, you can't send satellites up to a second law of thermodynamics violation. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Well, maybe if I had a little camera on my satellite that could look around, I would be able to prove it.
Maybe if I have a slow motion camera going through the wardrobe, I can show the time dilation in this place that doesn't exist. Likewise, space vacuum, not existent.
Right, you get it, exactly.
I got Jim Baroni and Wen Keeler saying about an electromagnetic field like a fusion reactor, that there's gas pressure next to a vacuum, but what's containing the pressure is the electromagnetic field around it. I don't know too much about a reactor and how it works, but that's the topic in Discord right now.
Yeah, the reactor itself is a container, right? So what they're saying is I can create gas pressure without a container by way of container.
Right, but it's also in a vacuum.
Sorry, the vacuum that's created within the container.
Yes.
So to demonstrate gas pressure without a container, they're going to need a reactor, and that reactor would be a, let me get this correct, giant container, correct?
Sounds about right.
So at what stage are we demonstrating gas pressure without a container when we've very definitely got a container to begin this process?
Yeah, there's a lot of wordplay, little semantics. Jim Baroni is telling me that weight is the force, not pressure. So he's mixing up a lot of these words, trying to confuse everybody and get everybody in the gotcha, you know. But he's
Weight is down vectors when talking about liquids and solids in air. The air itself expands in all directions. It doesn't have a simple down vector, 9.8 meters per second. It expands in all directions. Down. Talking of that, righteous. Somebody might be making a visit here, so Dirth has asked us to have a check out of some guy's presentation that he sent me, which I did have a glance over, but I think he's going to be putting his presentation past us.
All right.
If you see if you see anybody that you don't recognise, just say, "Are you that dude?" Or if you're watching and going, "How do I get on?" You just go into the live stream queue if the live stream itself is full, and then we'll move you across. Just so you know, if you're watching, I don't even know what the guy's name is. I'm so sorry, whoever this guy is. He's gone to the trouble of putting together a presentation to actually, garner our time without any chance of interruption while he goes through it. So smart move, but we'll see how he gets on if he comes at all. But certainly I've had a heads up from DITRH that somebody's chasing Bitcoin or something along those lines.
All right.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Chocolate. How goes it?
What's up?
Sky? It's going down?
Yeah, I was waiting for that response. Yep. Sky is usually up. Yep.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Where is this guy in Australia?
Above them? Same as it is for us. It's the same sky.
So if we were on a globe, this guy would be down from America.
Relative to your position, relative to my position, an Australian sky on a globe, when begging the question, would be antipode to my position. So, in technical terms, yes, their sky would be below my feet, antipodal from my positioning, yes. We're not on a globe.
But when I hear if we were on a globe, it kind of sounds like if I was from Krypton, or if I lived in Gotham City, or any bullshit that you can just make up. Because how does reality work on a globe when there is no globe measured, seen, or anything ever, except in cartoons?
Yeah, same as saying Narnia.
It's nonsense. Yeah.
If I say for the sake of argument, just to link the two together, Chocolate, that Narnia is a sphere-shaped planet also. So once you go through the wardrobe, regardless of where you end up in space and time, you're on a planetoid. So spherical surface beneath your feet. Now if I then say, if we are on Narnia, then the horizon distance is 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. If we're in Narnia, because Narnia is a spheroid, it's coincidentally like Venus, assumed to be the same exact parameters as Earth when assumed to be a sphere at 3959 radius. Therefore, if we assume we are in Narnia, then every distance to horizon's no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet in Narnia. So let's all beg the question in the first instance that we are indeed in Narnia, so we can calculate the geometric horizon that we experience, because we are in Narnia now, aren't we? Say it with me. We're in Narnia, aren't we? Yes, we're in
hold
Narnia.
on. First of all, Who came up with that the Earth is the same size as Venus?
Christian Huygens.
Okay, where were all the smart people back then? Where was all the intelligence? How would you let someone get away with that?
Get away with it? He was praised as being genius for doing it.
My point.
It's because you can't go against the church. How's
think it
my
was-
audio? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can. He was described as ingenious.
Because
Go ahead.
lately, like when I've been trying to talk, I've been crackling. Well, I updated my software, and I just want to know if I'm crackling.
Sound fine to me.
I have a question about that, or I was thinking about what you guys are talking about right now. If the Earth was a sphere, and you went down to the like if you dip corrected your eyesight to the Earth and looked out with a 0 degree baseline, shouldn't the horizon be lower than 0 degrees if you had a perfectly straight line? I would think that the horizon would, instead of bulging up, it would be dipping down.
Yeah, I don't think anybody ordered a taxi. Your mic's a bit distorted. I could only just make out what you were saying. No, did anybody order a minicab?
Okay, I'm not
No,
going
I
to talk
think
to you
it's
again.
crackling.
No, it's all right, Eric. We heard you. Should it be dipping down? It's part of their argument when they assume angles from a centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. If you were to quiz, and we have, people like Bob the pseudoscience guy on the physical position of his geometric location debunked by the Black Swan, they would indeed assert that it's dipping down below the horizontal, exactly as you would assert in the globe maths. They can't not assert that. They can't go against what they're claiming. They can't acquire the horizontal. It's our debunking of their use of the sextant. What are they pointing that tool at? Well, it's the horizon. Why are they pointing at it? To gain a horizontal baseline. Alrighty then. So your horizontal baseline, if you're pointing at the horizon, is dipping below your position, like you're on a sphere. Yeah, that's why the tool doesn't work, Eric. But good point. You sound broke up towards the end. It was fine at the beginning. We got most of it. Hello, who is it that just joined? John, hello. And bye-bye goes John. So yeah, Christian Huygens. Go ahead, Tenth.
Yeah, no, I want to comment, just hopefully it won't deter the conversation, but the claim about the sextant is very short, very sweet, very quick death for the globe. The sextant is an angle measuring instrument. That's number one. That's the claim we're making. Okay. They say they're using it on a curved surface called the Earth. Well, guess what? That negates it right there. You can't get an angle with a curved bottom baseline. That's the argument. It's over right there. We don't have to do any more.
Yeah, spot on. Only evidence of the R value, Earth radius.
It exists in the math.
Didn't you just hear what Ted said?
Yeah, but for them to beg the question of angles being measured from a presupposed centre of a presupposed spherical Earth at radius 3959 to gain their angles to infinite distantly stars and assume that dip angle is only accounting for their geometric drop debunked by the Black Swan, yeah, they're going to need R for that assumption. Yeah, they're transposing angles measured at the surface to the centre, but to the centre of their presupposed spherical Earth that they'll need R for. Any evidence of R? I did hear what he said. I know it's been debunked. Black Swan debunked it. But when they beg the question and try and justify how a sextant will work on a globe, they're still going to need R for that in every instance. That's why these two work well so well together, Black Swan and sextant.
You can't live on a globe without curvature. You got to measure.
What a marriage.
They ain't got any, John, and they haven't got an R value. They can't get one if they haven't got any measured curvature.
Right. It's over.
It is. It is game over. Globe's dead. Died 1st Jan 2020. That was when the coffin was covered over, not last nail, covered over, and everyone departed. That was the end of the funeral. 1st Jan 2020. It was fighting for its life in 2017. You know, everyone was allowed to beg the question, and that was its life support. Assuming R was life support for the globe that was dying. Then someone pulled the plug on R and the globe died. Now it's buried. 2020, 1st Jan. Black Swan. That's
I
what
think the
buried
globe
it.
was stillborn.
Nah, it's been very much live and kicking for at least 150, probably 200 years at the minimum. Probably maybe a bit longer, maybe 300, 400. We don't know where they've fiddled and diddled with the timelines.
You know what I haven't heard in a while is that everyone knows we live on a globe. Haven't heard that in a while.
To consensus fallacy.
Think they would bring that nonsense here? That
Yeah.
even an argument?
I like how Neil says he's not heard it when the majority of the opening show actually was spent discussing electronics and sound. A small percentage of that was actually your son appealing to consensus, Neil. There's so many people in NASA doing this work and that work. That's an appeal to consensus the same. Everybody knows we live on a globe. It's just a diluted version of that same thing your son appealed to. Sorry. So when you say you don't hear that anymore, yeah, you do. You hear it all the time.
I mean, exactly like that. Used to hear that all the time. Well, everyone knows we're on a sphere.
You're going to need R for that.
That's a
Times ever changed.
It's a self-soothing fallacy. They get here and go, idiots, everyone knows we're on a sphere. Because then they don't have to pay it much never mind. And they can get on with their day. It's like, if this is a trap or a rabbit hole that's been covered in branches and leaves, this is you walking along, skirting the edge of the trap, and a leaf or branch cracks beneath one of your feet, but technically you've both feet on steady ground, thinking you're on a globe. That's what I mean metaphorically, being on steady ground in your globe faith. So you hear the snap of one of the twigs and you look down, and you go, oh, right, that's a flat earth hole. Ah, we all know we live on a sphere. And then you dodge the trap. And then walk off. So you've seen what it is, noted that it's flat earth, but you've in no way fallen down the rabbit hole. Just tell yourself that everybody already knows, because you already know. So you don't need to look at the rabbit hole.
Nathan, let me give you an update on the effects of the black swan, at least from my perspective. I've been watching and monitoring when I can, and of course, people send me stuff, the rebuttals from the anti-flat earthers and the ballers about the sextant argument. And it's quite interesting. As of this point, I can't find one that has spent any quantity of time saying that the measurement's coming from the center of the earth. Yet all the books pre-assume that. Now, I can only think the reason they don't do that is because they've heard the black swan argument. They know if they go there, we're going to request proof of R. So they're not even going there. So they're not even presupposing that in their imagination, the angles of the sextant is coming from the center, because obviously it's never coming from the center because the tool's being used on the surface. But they're not even trying to do it from a transversal or, argument that sun is coming. I haven't even heard that. And that's the only place they can go. They could go and say the sunlight is coming in parallel and the angle is the same as from the center. So they can't even go there because how devastating the black swan is.
So, what you're saying is our anti-flat earth opponents who are aware at some level that we have an argument called the black swan, and it debunks their capabilities of deriving R by way of geometric assertions of the horizon. Upon an understanding of that being gained, our anti-flat earth opponents won't appeal to angles from the centre of a presupposed spherical earth and light coming in parallel from these infinite distances that can be described and are described in some of the sextant manuals, because they know that we'll just ask for R, the conclusion of the black swan, in other words. So when you say they, your they is anti-flat earthers, people who are aware of the argument. These are people who have not just looked at the little trap that's called flat earth. They've fallen right down the bottom of it, and when they emerge on the other side, they look back up at the big hill that's actually just been, traversed, and they go, God, it's horrible down here. I mean, we're in the same place, but we're looking around going, wow, isn't it beautiful? But they've fallen down that hole, and at that point they're going, you know what? I know that the people down here will ask me for an R value if I start telling them as I'm trying to climb back up this hole to the top of the hill, that, you know, we can just assume that the angles come from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth when we use a sextant on the surface, as all these people are down here are doing and talking about, and how flat it is when they measure on the surface. I mean, back up there, everyone just laughed along and said, well, we know the angle comes from a presupposed centre when we talk about 1 degree every 69 statute miles, the drop for Polaris, for example. Well, everybody knew that it was coming from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and you're just twisting it like a giant 360-degree compass. Well, you know, now we're down here and everyone's pointing out that we actually make that angle measurement on the surface with 2 straight lines. You know, that's painful. I'm trying to get back up to the top of this bloody rabbit hole so I can believe that we're on a sphere again and laugh at you people. Like the people up there, I can hear them through the rabbit hole still laughing. Laughing down the hole.
Well, they're gonna,
especially using the straight lines that you spent a year and a half, almost 2 years, telling your opponents that you can't get because everything's refracted all the time, or everywhere, always. It's hilarious. It must hurt, Glovers. That sucks.
It does, Chocolate, and it's been a while now, but I can't help but think that they're really exhausted at this point because of pretending to be on something that they're not. I mean, their God-given senses are telling them every day we're not spinning, we don't live on a curved surface, water finds its level, and yet they must be exhausted in their mental state because they're in the world of pretending.
Imagine trusting somebody like, I don't know, Bill Nye more than your own senses. Hilarious.
If you're standing under, let's say you have a room in your house and there's a light fixture in the center of the room attached to the ceiling. If you get under that light fixture, that's the zenith position. You're directly under the light. It's directly overhead. You're at 90 degrees to it. Now, if you find a corner of the room that you can walk to, say it's 3.5 steps, 4 steps, you're looking at 9 feet to 12 feet away, normal steps. Your angle to that light is no longer 90 degrees because you walked away from it, but your surface is flat. So now you have an angle to the light. As you walk closer back to the light, it gets closer to 90. If you walk further away, it's going 89, 88. It's going all the way. And that's how sextant works, because it can have a straight baseline and an angle to that light. And when you're underneath it, you're underneath it.
Yeah, you can't measure straight lines for sextant angle measurements on a spherical surface. It does not work. And the old bait and switch to take the angle to the centre without them noticing. You know, Adam pointed this out pretty early on when they started doing it, and nobody's ever looked back since. Yeah, we caught the bait and switch. It was a lot more obvious than the terrestrial refraction bait and switch. And it got caught, it got addressed. Now, silence. What have they got? That's it. I mean, this argument has been done, dealt with, wrapped up in rebuttal, and again, put to bed pretty quickly. Far quicker than the Black Swan. You know, that's it. What you got? Beg the question that the angle came from the centre. Black Swan. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Gravity, what's that?
Down 9.8 meters per second.
No, but you can calculate
Helium balloon?
You can calculate it using some mathematics, and then all of a sudden you think that you've got something there called gravity because you made a sum.
Well,
Doesn't there have to be an it before you can calculate it? What's
no? Something not quite right here. My wife used this on me. She showed me the maths of vacuuming, how the pressure differential causes the dust to go into the vacuum. She calculated the square footage of the carpet, and then told me how all of that dust would go in at what rate. She broke it all down for me. And then when I pointed out the vacuum hadn't been done, do you know what she said? She said you can think of it as being done.
Ha!
Did she really? That's hilarious.
Does work the other way as well, Nathan. It works if you can spit them maths back to her. You can then claim that you've done the vacuuming.
No, that's what she was doing. Oh, I see what you're saying. I can take those measurements and claim a force also.
Yeah.
Right.
You can even explain to her how entropy decreased when you did the vacuuming in the mathematics, because you can describe using the Boltzmann equation how the distribution, the probability distribution of the particulates in the carpet will have decreased over time as you were doing the vacuuming in the sums.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm being swindled out of some chores getting done by showing some mathematics of things that don't really exist in physical reality.
And we never said that they actually exist. They
But
just
that's
exist
what I was
in the maths.
told. I was told I could think of the chores having been done.
Yeah, but if you don't realise that it's a reification fallacy to do that, then you're stupid in the denial or the ignorance that the vacuuming has actually been done. Nobody said the vacuum had actually been done, and nobody would expect it to have been done.
You can, you don't have to work on the really is chore level.
It's going to work on parrots all over the place.
Yeah, I was told to imagine the vacuuming had been done and it was all clear. And when I pointed out that it isn't, I was told, well, in this example, when I'm explaining how the vacuuming works and the pressure differential that was sucking up the particulates of matter into the bag, that I didn't need to think of it on the really is level. That's what I was told. And I'm like, I just want the vacuuming done. The maths is irrelevant, right?
Did you get the 800 watt vacuum, or did you get the bigger, more powerful 1000 watt vacuum?
I got the 1000, and that was justified. And in terms of the economic value of that power difference, that all got explained in the process when I was asking about why the vacuuming hadn't been done. So I know all about the power differential and the economics of scale in terms of how much quicker it'll be with a powerful motor to do the vacuuming that's been done. Obviously, we're not working at the really is level.
There was a recent study that said that the 800 watt vacuum was actually more efficient because it uses less power, and the suction is negligibly different. So it's actually better value for money to get the 800 watt one, you know.
This one
Hold
of
on a
those...
second.
Hold on, I've seen these advertised. Is this one of those ones that works on the time dilation principles?
Yeah, it works on the flux capacitor. It's got a different flux capacitor.
I see. It's crossed franchises from Narnia to Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hold on. It would be harder to fake the mathematics of doing the vacuuming than to just do the vacuuming. So obviously she did the vacuuming.
She said that too. That's right. That's exactly how she phrased it too. Doing all this maths for the electricity consumption that was definitely used when doing the vacuuming at the not really is level was far more complex than just doing it. So obviously it's been done, because why would you do the maths?
Thing is, if we can start an internal ruckus with some element of the mechanics of the motor, how powerful it is, or the suction technique that it uses, people will get lost in the fact that we're arguing over Narnia, and they'll think that we're actually arguing about the credibility of the argument that the 800 watt machine is a little bit more efficient than the 1000 watt machine, completely missing the point that it's all nonsense in the first place.
Yes, it's more about the differential in pressure, because vacuums don't actually suck. What's actually happening is the pressure that has a differential by you evacuating the vacuum means that the outside pressure forces the dust by way of a breeze into the vacuum as it replaces the differential. So obviously you don't understand how vacuums work. You know, the fact that this argument now dilutes and segues away from whether or not the vacuuming's been done is irrelevant. You just don't understand how vacuums work, Anthony.
Nathan, come on. The battery was at full charge a day ago. It's at half a charge now. It had to be done.
Yeah. And now if you're in the audience and you're listening and you didn't keep up with that conversation and the way it flowed, then you don't realize that the tactics that they play, we were demonstrating real world for you on the ad hoc, like, you know, flipping it off the tip of our tongue. But if you did follow that, you understand the tactics that they use. So well done if you kept up with it.
And if No, you now pointing out that I'm using tactics is just you not understanding how a vacuum works and trying to move away from that fact. It's just because you're an idiot and you've lost.
I was going to say you
Right.
forgot to
There's
call me an
another
idiot.
tactic.
Yeah, I was going to say
hold
you
on.
forgot to call me an idiot.
We can, we do, we must think of the vacuuming being done. It doesn't mean it really is, but we don't have to work at the really is level.
I feel much
we
better
are.
now.
God.
Thanks.
So after all this, where does somebody claim victory? Because we've forgotten that bit. We've got to claim victory somewhere.
No, so long as the audience has missed the point, not realised that the debunk still stands and hasn't been refuted, then the convolution of the argument leaves the audience not realising what they've missed. I'll give it.
Which is basically what happened. Which is a textbook example of what
Just about
happened
to-
at Rachel 5 Zeros.
Oh,
and
no.
Fight the Flat Earth.
Go ahead. I was going to give a different example. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rachel 5 Zeros managed to get them in the corner and she was trading blows with them, and they just didn't like the fact that she was trading blows with them, and rumpus the death out of the conversation to stop her from getting the devastating blows out, which was in her example. Where did Blue Marble Science get the acceleration from if he hasn't got a force to do it? And they couldn't have their audience hearing that, so they basically battered her with verbal attack and called her all sorts of names to try and ridicule and humiliate her. And she stuck to her guns, but she couldn't get... It's basically rumpusing. They rumpused her as the guest. That's what happened.
I was going to give a little rendition of Hank Hill versus Zysis, I believe. And in debate, he made a really good point about the inverse square law with stars and their measurements. It was entirely ignored. 40 to 60 minutes later, I kid you not, the discussion had long since ended, moved on to a different subject, and then got brought back on by the original person who'd been challenged, Zysis in this example. Now, Hank Hill had then left the hangout, but a concession was given in terms of his point in regards to the inverse square law and how it debunked the point, but it wasn't attached to the original devastating question, and there was a prolonged period of time in between, and the opponent wasn't there to say, "Ha! That was my point!" So that didn't happen. Now, after the fact, Anthony got in touch with me and was like, "Here's a section of your show. Here's another section of your show 40 minutes later, and here's a gaggle screw of nonsense in between. Now, if I put this beginning bit with this end bit, it's devastating. He's won when he asked the question. It's conceded that he's won 40 minutes later. These two were left so far apart intentionally as a tactic by the opponent." Anthony then said, "You must take charge." At the time, I was far more lenient. Very similar to some of the other shows that are out there. Other debate shows are available. I took a similar approach, and Anthony was like, "No, we are in the minority. There is no reason why you should allow this to happen." I went, "Okay." From that day to this, I've not allowed it to happen.
There was another really good example. It was with, what's his name? Brandon Toy. He spotted that Rumpus was basically, Rumpus was doing something naughty. He was rumpusing the hangout to stop Brandon Toy realizing that GeoStreamer was reifying mathematics, or reifying a graph in this instance, into existence as a claim for evidence that the Eötvös effect existed. And it was a four-axis graph. There was a nice curve to it. And Brandon realized that he was reifying. He said, like, "Where did you get the data from this from?" And he said it was from a model. And he was just about to say that the use of the model to make the prediction for the graph to exist in the first place is reification. There's no actual evidence for the graph being created. And because Rumpus knew that that was what was coming out of his mouth next, Rumpus took a tactical foul, got ejected from the hangout. GeoStreamer thought he was being a fair moderator by kicking him out. Meanwhile, I spotted that this was literally a sabotage attack to stop Brandon from telling everybody that GeoStreamer was reifying. Another example of tactics.
Right, indeed.
That's all they got are tactics. Literally all they got.
Well, if you guys would quit pointing out that the vacuuming isn't being done, then the vacuuming would be thought of as being done, and we wouldn't have any problems here.
Or more correctly saying it would be to... The vacuuming issue has been forgotten about if we discuss Anthony's cognition and understanding about differential pressures versus vacuum sucking. Once that's been discussed for a prolonged period of time, the issue of vacuuming itself gets forgotten.
Which is exactly what Professor Phil Bell's doing in chat right now when he's asking the question, well, if you go up to 50 miles, it's practically a vacuum at that height. So why is it not, he argues then you can have gas pressure existing next to a vacuum, fundamentally missing the point that you can't have the pressure created in the first place because you need something that's going to increase or decrease entropy and increase energy. And the reality is there's nothing to stop it from all exhausting like the gases out of a car, because the moment the gases are created in a car, out the back they go. It's the same thing with the Earth, and a bottle of pop proves it.
Yep. Go get a Pepsi and debunk your whole model. Hilarious.
I put a pop bottle on one of the live shows after we discussed this. Somebody had called you out on it as being nonsense, and I was like, it's just an entropy example. What's the issue? Why would this be any more or less valid than any other demonstration of hot to cold or high pressure to low pressure? Pop bottle, yeah, it's absolutely sound. Why is that an issue? Now, I didn't actually get an answer, but I did stick it on a thumbnail with, I think it was Mountain Shouting and Dr. Bob. Those are the bottles. They're obviously rip-off of main brands, but I just thought it was quite funny. Dr. Bob and Mountain Shouting.
That's your synchronicity, Neil.
Correct.
I did see them, Nathan. I couldn't believe the Dr. Bob one. But then to have a Mountain Shouting, which is what they've been doing at us for a while. Mountains do shout at us and point out the very flat nature, which we dwell atop. Yeah, I thought that was really... was it you that found that picture 10th? Or something?
Yeah, I think it was 10th.
Yeah.
Good.
It sort of came across my computer.
Of all the net, like Dr. Bob, it's nothing like Dr. Pepper. So why pick Dr. Bob? I don't know. It just like, yeah.
Isn't it Pibb? Dr. Pibb or something like that in the States? We don't have that here. Do you guys have Dr. Pibb?
It's called Mr.
Dr.
Pibbs.
Pepper.
Mr. Pibb.
Dr. Pepper in the northern states, and if you go down south, you get Mr. Pibbs, which is a takeoff of Dr. Pepper.
It's a spin-off of both. You end up with Dr. Bib or Dr. Bob would sound better. So that's what we've done. Anyway,
you can think of it as Dr. Pepper.
Damn, you got there quicker than I did. Mountain Dew, yeah. Whether or not you get called a counterfeiter is, at least in England, based on the standard of would an idiot in a hurry mistake it for the original brand. So if you've got, instead of Pepsi, you've got Pepsi with a very similar logo. If an idiot in a hurry would just chuck his money on the counter and grab it, thinking it was Pepsi, then you've got a counterfeit. So, you've got to skirt the lines when you're counterfeiting Mountain Dew. Well, to me, Mountain Shouting, is it close enough? Right on the edge, innit? I love it. Some counterfeiter somewhere's gone, we've got to get it close enough for people to want to buy it, but not close enough that if in court we couldn't give plausible deniability that we definitely didn't do that.
Audis are the masters at that, aren't they? They have a Mars bar called a Titan bar. San Pellegrino water is San Celestino. Dreams
German
instead of Milky Ways.
They've got very methodical minds, haven't they, the Germans? How does the letter of the law state that we shall do this? I see. We will name it thusly.
You get some classic lines, they make you smile. Obviously, somebody's job to think up like those titles is their alternative. So,
if you're not familiar, we're just talking about a supermarket that's like Walmart but smaller, German, Aldi. Anyway.
They're destroying the Walmarts. They're destroying Asda in this country. They're undercutting the undercutters.
And they're doing, but they're not doing it by lack of quality. They're doing it with efficiency. They're doing it by being very German. I used to have a friend of mine used to be a manager at Aldi, and it's run on an absolute minimal staff. So when you walk around an Aldi, you would assume that there's 10 or 12 people running the place. It's normally 3 or 4 in a big, massive store, and they just do everything and are very efficient about how and when they're going to organise their day. and it's long hours, but very, very good pay. So they pay the staff well, keep them loyal. And at one stage, Aldi didn't even have proper tills with scanners. They do now, but for years, till very recently, every member of staff was expected in Aldi to know the price of everything in the store. Everything. Because they would process everything manually and charge cash only, or they then very recently allowed you to use a debit card. But for a very long time, you had a minimal amount of ways to pay it, certainly not on a credit card, because that would cost them to process. So to bear back everything, they literally had the staff know the price of everything. And they would put it through literally on a calculator as you went through. It was nuts. They did that for years.
Wait a second. You're saying Aldi's by you, it's like Walmart?
Like a supermarket with, like a Walmart. Imagine a supermarket. Just a supermarket with all the different products. Well, yes, they have fairly limited lines, but they've got everything you could do on a grocery shop. It's just a grocery store. My point is that if you imagine memorizing the price of everything in your local Walmart, that's what Aldi staff did, so that they didn't have to invest in any technology in that regard. They could keep it much more efficient and slick with minimal staff, with them just knowing the price of everything in the store. As incredible as it sounds, that's exactly what they did. An item would go past them and they would know how much it cost and put it into a calculator right in front of you. It was a bit more advanced than that. It was a proper till, but you know what I mean? It was basically just a calculator. It wasn't scanning it going bip and then a computer knowing how much it cost. They knew by heart how much every item cost. This is a flat earth debate. We're talking about the intricacies of a small, it's not even that small anymore, Aldi's quite big, but a German supermarket chain that just runs in such a manner that their quality is the same as every other supermarket, but their prices are stupidly cheap and their branding is a bit off-brand. So it looks like it should be cheap, but it tastes like everything else, right? But just by doing things in a very German efficient way.
Why do you expect it to be off topic? We started with a vacuum.
Yeah, and why did they, if you said it's a smaller type of Walmart, why'd they call it Aldi's and not Smallmart?
I don't know what Aldi would mean in a German dialect, so I don't know what that word means.
Anyway, get a Trader Joe's by you. They're better.
Hello, whoever it was that saved us from this discussion. Whoever said mic check. Yes, we heard.
Well, Nathan, what I wanted to highlight real quick for you was, aren't you kind of talking about the idea of being dependent on technology and people becoming dumber because of it?
Maybe. You had to be of a certain education standard, from what I understood when, this is going back a while, that this manager was telling me about the education status as people in Aldi. They were educated. They weren't dumbos that they'd employ. So I don't know if that's the correlation you're drawing. I wasn't. You can. Feel free.
Yeah, because just real quick, Solar. Sorry, I feel like people have this idea that technology is all good and like helping us, and it does a lot of good things. But like you're saying, there are things that it's making us more lazy at, and it's actually reversing our progress as human beings, I feel. And we're paying more attention to the technology than human beings.
Right. Somebody somewhere in Germany has gone, it will be more efficient to employ more intelligent people for more money than invest in a computerized system to scan in every item of stock or scan in a box at a quantity and then have it go through a till at the end and then process it that way. It will be cheaper, quicker, and essentially more efficient, like the Germans like to be, to do it with the staff just knowing everything. That relies on good staff and intelligent staff, and it made them more money by doing it that way, rather than relying on lower quality, more or less intelligent staff and a highly sophisticated computer system. But different.
Just one more thing.
I
just correlate it to the. Oh, sorry, am I stepping on you there?
No, I just said different strokes for different folks. It's just, that's, some people do it one way, some people do it another.
Absolutely. I just want to point out, because we're always told that like these people have all these high technology things, that's why we make all these advancements and stuff, but we have pretty practical examples where technology isn't helping us as much as we think. Go ahead, Solar.
No, I was just going to make a joke about your mountain drink, that it should be mountain spew, as in spewing garbage.
That's what we get for certain. Mountain spew.
You know, that technology thing is always funny for me because at my job, obviously everyone knows I'm a flatty. And we sit in meetings sometimes, right, where we have like these big meetings that span across like different satellite locations for my job, right? So we sit there and the Wi-Fi is horrible. And I always sit and laugh because we're a multi-million dollar company as of right now. And the Wi-Fi, we can't even get Wi-Fi that works. The shit's breaking up. It's all crap. And I sit there in the meeting and I always say really, really loud, like, so in 69, supposedly people walked around on the moon. But today in 2021, can't get Wi-Fi to work in this building. How's that technology going, guys? They all look at me like, this guy's starting again. I love it. It's insanity. People think that stuff actually happened, but then you can't get a signal, a clear signal in 2021, and that's okay.
What's the
Nixon can talk to people on the
phone
moon
call
with
to
a
the
phone.
moon.
Oh, Andy's already got me. Adam's beat me to it.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Nixon on the landline.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insanity, man. That's cool. That worked out beautifully.
What did he say to them on the phone? I am not a crook.
No, that was later.
No, he talked about how easily the call was made because of the lack of atmosphere between them and the astronauts. So I'm sure that's what they talked about.
By the relay in Australia.
Of course, yes.
Sure, yeah.
Marvellous. Meanwhile, Wi-Fi don't work in Chocolate's multi-million-pound company. I mean, what the hell are they doing? Do they not realise you're trying to debate the nature of Earth on a completely unrelated show on your phone while you're working? What is their problem?
I don't know. They need to get their shit together.
Dude, I'm going to write a letter. They'll probably get you fired. I'm not going to write a letter. I'm joking. Any single...
I remember one of the...
Go on.
I was going to say one of the things that used to get me to doubt it was, you know, how are you transmitting something that far when you know, you'd need a powerhouse to put that kind of, you know, power into a signal. But, you know, that's really what they want you to do is question, you know, something unrelated to, you know, the problem. Like, how's the signal reaching that far? Exactly. Instead of whether that place actually exists.
You've got it.
Smack that beef.
Exactly. So it's
listen.
It's hold on, just one sec. It's rockets. How do they work in a vacuum when they've got nothing to push on? It's how do three 1960s car batteries transmit a signal that's remote control from Earth by way of a moon buggy and its camera that's remote operated to the moon with those three batteries. Let's argue about how that's possible so that they can spin out the explanation for no. By the third time they did it, the guy who's operating the camera that's attached to the moon buggy that's powered by 1960s batteries that have been driving around the moon surface for quite some time, he just figured out that based on the delay time that he'd have to move his stick to move the camera to film the takeoff with the little bit of wire that's pulling it off the ground. Ignore that bit, I didn't say that. He just has to do it early. And, you know, eventually he got the hang of it, and they got the perfect shot of it taking off the moon, and nobody got hurt, nobody died. And, you know, the batteries were perfectly sufficient to transmit that to the relay in Australia and then back to us for us to have the glorious footage. And that's how it was done. I mean, what's the problem? Missing the fact that you can't have gas pressure without a container. If they left Earth and it's claimed to be sphere-shaped air, atmosphere, they'd be entering an area of low pressure claimed to be 10 to the minus 17 torr. And that would be an area of volume that the gas we're breathing would fill. So they definitely didn't take this journey because they'd have to traverse a second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, that is definitely not real. Let's not worry about how they transmitted back after arriving in a place that they're claiming is a rock in this sky vacuum, because that journey definitely didn't take place. Therefore, the transmission is irrelevant.
On the share screen, There's the phone.
Before you do, or as you do, I was going to say, not only does the Wi-Fi not work, but if they even try to get rid of chocolate, nothing would work because everything works well with chocolate.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Look, we'll move on.
That
but
also happens
before,
when Neil
hold on,
deGrasse
everyone,
Tyson
calm down.
smacks the beach ball.
Right. So what we're talking about, just so we stay on subject, is, how good a quality of walkie-talkie do you need to transmit back through the wardrobe, and how long would the Duracell batteries work in the walkie-talkie on Narnia side of the wardrobe if there's a time dilation. So let's argue about the time dilation and the battery longevity in the walkie-talkies when transmitting through the wardrobe back to somebody who's not in Narnia. Not realising that Narnia isn't real, and the battery life when transmitting through walkie-talkies through the wardrobe isn't really that relevant. It's just a segue to make sure we're all begging the question that Narnia is real. In this case, we're all begging the question that space is real. There's a sky vacuum, and that entropy law that's being violated is nothing to worry about. We'll concern ourselves with 1960s battery technology, or whether or not rocket technology can work in this fake place that doesn't exist. Over to you, Adam.
Well, that kind of sums it up, but if you want just to ease you any cognitive dissonance, pain you're suffering, they summarise it here for a simple thing for you to accept. Look, so mission to the moon. Listen, as Apollo 11 crew now isolated from everyone except Nixon, and the way they describe this mastery of human achievement is in such detail is simply the call went from the Oval Office in Washington DC to Houston, where it was routed into space via mission control through the capsule communicator.
Oh, no, Australian relay not needed. Okay, my bad.
They might have had it in there and just changed the story. Who knows? They do it all the time.
Wasn't the relay for the pictures?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's why on the dish film you've got the picture of the sheep standing on television screens, because that's where they're getting the movie pictures from. The second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, obviously filmed on a set a long time previous to the transmission, then presented at NASA by way of a video feed to a monitor with a camera pointed at the monitor and then transmitted to a projection screen onto a wall for the press to film to then transmit to the public. That was how the video footage was presented. That's why it looks like it's
cell phone service right outside my front door.
That's why what you see on screen now on the right hand side, that is why this is so crap. Because the stage show that they did when they created this fake footage was then, as I say, put onto tape, played through a video monitor, filmed by a camera, sent down a wire to a projection screen, projected onto a wall, and then filmed by cameras that then gave you this image via your TV screen. That's why it looks like this.
Just sad.
Well, yeah, like if you look at it as in what it proves, right? Say NASA comes out and admits that they faked everything. How does that prove that we're not on a sphere? You know, how does it? It wouldn't prove anything. It would just prove that they're liars.
Blue marble. No. Some of the fundamental premises of being on a sphere were confirmed by these journeys into the sky vacuum. Why were they needed? You know, check out the clues, man. Mark Sargent, man. They needed a picture of Earth, a full ball from space. That's what this got them. That's the main purpose of these missions. They're travelling to the moon, but what they really need is a picture of Earth from space as a whole sphere. Because up until this point, they don't have that.
No, I think it is
how would that
pretty
prove?
sad.
It would prove for a heliocentrist that Earth's a sphere, because apparently they've then got a photograph of it that happens to match quite nicely Michael Collins' pictorial paintings of the exact same thing. You know, just by happy coincidence, he happens to be a really good artist that likes drawing pictures of Earth as a sphere. I mean, it's just a coincidence and all that. But there we go. That's what they hadn't got, other than in artist's form, until they did this. So what does it prove? Well, it's a picture of Earth from space. What does that prove if you don't believe Earth's a ball? Well, here's a picture of it from space.
right? They can claim it as a proof, but if all of that is debunked, it's just no longer a proof. How does it prove that it's not a sphere then?
How does it debunk Earth? Well, you can only take the claim at its face value. The claim of Earth having photographs of it from space is debunked. Ergo, there are no pictures of Earth from space to prove it's a ball. How does that disprove it being a ball full stop? Well, you can't carte blanche apply their leap in logic when presented with propaganda that people have travelled through a second law of thermodynamics violation to play golf on a claim to be rock in that sky vacuum and send transmissions and phone calls back and forth between this second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum that doesn't exist, and whether or not that non-existence debunks the entirety of heliocentrism. I don't see how I can go from one to the other. I can just debunk the claim, which is that they went to the moon. They didn't transmit back from it. They didn't get pictures of Earth from space because there is no space. The sky vacuum's bunk. But does that debunk Earth as a sphere as a whole? Well, I don't know. Maybe. If that's all you hold as proof.
No. I wasn't saying the part about space, because the part about space is necessary for the sphere as logical implication. But just because NASA's a bunch of liars, like someone could make that logical step to say just because they're a bunch of liars doesn't mean that it's not,
No, and likewise, you can apply the same logic to the moon landing itself. I think Joe Rogan, as we've been talking about in this show, did exactly the same thing. You go into, well, they didn't and couldn't tell us about the secret moon missions that were from behind the moon and how they found this, that, and the other, because obviously that would scare the public. So you just invent a whole new story that might have been told to you by somebody who's speculated these things or has been put out as a false narrative, so that you can still have the same story, but justify why they'd have to lie, whilst maintaining the exact same story about how they've travelled to a rock in the sky vacuum. They just didn't show us what they really did. Well, likewise, they didn't really get a picture of Earth from space because of the Van Allen radiation belts. Oh, right, okay, so they had to fake it because they couldn't get past this difficult place that we're now told we can't get through. Just ignore the fact that the place they're travelling to and claim to have been and now can't get to because of Van Allen belts that weren't an issue back then is a sky vacuum that doesn't exist and violates natural law. Again, better to be arguing about whether or not Van Allen belts were going to cause a problem for them travelling to space than pointing out that space isn't real. Let's argue about whether Van Allen belts got in the way of the original journey to the moon, right?
Exactly.
All this time, I thought Van Allen belts was an opera singer.
Pavarotti.
Well, how come they didn't get any pictures of them on the moon from the Earth? Vice versa. Man can see Earth from the moon. Well, why can't we see man on the moon from Earth?
Because the moon's not a rock in a sky vacuum. Not as they've presented. I mean, it might be, but it's certainly not in the form and methodology and type that they've claimed to travel to it in. And really, that's all that matters. Their claims of it being a rock in a sky vacuum capable of being landed on to get pictures of Earth from space is all bunk, because if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. And with that, I'll say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link below this video, help me out with all my horrendous bills, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Okay.
Meanwhile, we can pick up a license plate from
a box flying around in a supposed vacuum. Okay.
It's been fun lately with these ballers, anti-flat earthers. I mean, it's so funny at times.
Hey, I know
Umo,
why they.
where's that curve?
I know why they don't mention the center of the Earth having the angle taken from that, because right now y'all they're arguing the dip angle as their proof, right? And their dip angle correction. That's
The
what
suspense is killing me. What happened?
No, they can't. They're doing that because they don't want to go to that other one. But all you got to do is go read the literature. That's where the two lines could only meet on the sphere to create a vertex. And the dip angle has already been illustrated and shown to be height above the water, not angling your sextant to a supposed curve. It never says that. It says it's your eyeball above the surface of the ocean. You got to get it level. So to match the right angle, which is triangulation, which is the sextant's operation. I have this documented from the experts. So I don't care what these anti-flat earthers say. I'm going to their books.
Their books.
Right,
Not your book, right? Their books.
That's right.
The reason that they're not bringing up that as an argument is because they're talking about a dip angle correction, or they're arguing about that with you at the moment. But if they start talking about the dip angle correction, then why would you need to do it? And if you're doing it, why aren't you doing it for 39.59?
Correct.
It would be it'd be suicide for them mentally or logically to take it to that point. It would just destroy everything they've done and trying to muddy the water so far.
Here's what's destroying them. It's a right angle. The GP of the star, thousands of miles away, that's a right angle to you. And who's you? You're the guy with the sextant. Thousands of miles away from the GP of a star, and that's a right angle. That bottom is a baseline. That's straight. It's over right there.
Over.
And then my favorite shit is then you turn around and you got another star, another 1,000 miles away, or how long, and that's straight too. Why? Because you need a right angle. That's a lot of miles, man. How does that work on a ball?
At this point, the Black Swan folded his hands, is taking a nap, and saying, "All right, sextant, fight my battle for me for a while," because they ain't got it.
Correct, until they start, and then you could bring me back in again, like a Kumo virus when Nathan got him.
Just the other day, Mr. Sensible said there are two right angles on the Earth, the zenith of the observer and the zenith of the star. Well, thank you very much. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Did he have a point saying that? What was his point in that?
I'll tell you, Mitchell was shocked when he heard it, and because it was so plain, it was so obvious, it's going to haunt him forever to say that you got two right angles.
So at best, what you have is two right angles. The same guy? You got to be kidding me, man.
Oh, gosh.
Come on, man. Center of your eyeball, center of ball Earth. It's both the same. Works.
Yeah, same difference. Yeah, sure.
Hey, everyone. What he was originally claiming, he seems to have moved away from this claim now, was that it was trilateration that is done with the sextant, not triangulation. Now, that means he's, even though he's wrong, right, about that completely. He doesn't see it seems, but he's completely wrong. There's no angles in trilateration. Trilateration didn't exist up until the late 80s, early 90s. There's no such thing because it uses microwaves. But trilateration takes away angles. There's no angles involved at all. And it uses three straight lines. Because trilateration is done with microwave signals, which is direct line of sight. Microwave signals are basically the original name for a laser was a maser. The M stood for microwave. So, that's three straight lines he's claiming. When I asked him about it, he claimed a curved radius after that. I said, but that's 3 straight lines. I said, if you keep on claiming trilateration, you realize you're claiming 3 straight lines. He said, no, it's an arc. Like I had pointed out to him that the chord is. I don't know if I pointed out to him before that or after that. But I think it was before that. I pointed out that the chord, because I was presuming he was claiming a chord. I said the chord is less in distance than the arc, so it doesn't work. And I told him about the trilateration. You're claiming 3 straight lines. I even show it in the video. 290 degree angles, like one for at the GP of the star and one at the position of the observer.
Members only live stream. I'm your host, obviously, Nathan Oakley. Good to have you all. Hope you're all enjoying these member-only after-show live streams. I'm going to transition across in a minute to Google Plus and Discord, but I wanted to say a personal thank you to all of the people who've been helping me out recently on PayPal. So Sod's Law, things break, and it's been really great that I haven't actually had to do a GoFundMe to raise funds to fix my projector. Sod's Law also, something else is broken, but it has been fixed in recent times. So I'm hoping that the amplifier repair that I'm going to get done in the not too distant future, once I get the courage to actually box the damn thing up and send it back, hopefully won't cost any money, as I say, this fault that has been repaired and paid for has been ongoing, so it's just another pain in the ass. But I'd still want to thank everyone who has actually contributed, members or otherwise, if you're watching this after the fact, for the PayPal contributions. Keep them coming. As I say, I do want to raise a bit of money so I can actually cover a light bulb and some repairs to my projector, and hopefully not any repairs to the amp, but if that comes up as well, you'll see me e-begging for PayPal for the not insignificant future. So hopefully that'll stop eventually and I can stop PayPal e-begging. But I did want to thank all of you who have actually supported me in the meantime and support me in the future after this broadcast goes out. With that, I am going to hand across to Discord and Google so you can hear the continuation of today, which is 1533's Flat Earth Debate Live for you members only.
Brian.
Baldwin? I'm talking about Banana Earth. You think that's Baldwin?
Come on, Kent.
The banana still got a straight radius, Owen.
Huh?
Even in the banana shape, the radius of the cylinder of the banana would still be a straight radius that's creating that cylinder. There's no bent radius.
Well, maybe if you step on that banana, but yeah. Safe to say, curved radii takes away from sphericity.
There is no such thing as curved radii. That's the point.
Well, there's no curved radius on the ball Earth, that's for sure.
There's no curved radius.
What radius?
No, radius lines aren't curved. That's the whole point of them. They're a straight line distance from the center of a circle or a sphere to its extremities. That's what it is. There is no such thing as a curved radius. So when someone gets to the point of claiming a curved radius, you're wasting your time at that point. They'll say anything at that point.
Say that again, Brian.
Maybe if there was like a black hole slightly off center of Earth that would bend space-time, then there would be a curved radius.
Hey, sorry.
Radius is geometry.
Sorry, hold on. Sorry, Brian and Arwin. Sorry to do this.
Can...
Sorry to do this to you. Before Arwin takes it to the other extreme into nonsense, it's the same as claiming you've got a bent tangent line, right? You descend to the point where if you're claiming you've got refraction, you can't have a straight line to the horizon. It's a bent line. If it's refracted, well, then they haven't got a tangent. In this case, they haven't got a straight line for a radius. Doesn't matter if it's the radius to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth to bumped by the black swan, or the radius for an area, a circle, that's two-dimensional, of equal altitude. Now, on a curved surface, they need that line on that circle, that would be a radius, a straight line to the centre from the outside edge. They need it to curve upwards because it's representative when doing triangulation of their curve when they beg the question of a sphere with a radius to the centre of it. In other words, they've got a curved radius. Now, it's nothing to do with black holes and everything to do with a geometric impossibility when describing a straight line as having a curved line. It gives you a massive discrepancy if you're going to put that on a map. Now, that's one of Brian's, again, points from several weeks ago now, but it's still worth stressing. When they get to the point where they're saying curved radii, no, you haven't. You've just got a presupposition that the land curves over the top of this necessity to have an area, circular in nature, that's got a radius, straight line, of equal elevation or equal altitude. You haven't got it on a sphere, so suddenly you've got curved radii. No, you haven't.
What? That's really weird. So they but they claim it as a geometry?
You can't refract geometry. It's not light. Geometry is not light. Light gets refracted. Geometry never refracts. You can't refract it. It's set in stone. There is no such thing as a curved radius. You can bring up 40 million black holes. It won't curve a radius line.
Does everyone understand? Hold on. Does everyone understand what Brian's just said? Which is, you can't refract geometry.
Absolutely with you. But something that would be geometrically a radius might be seeming to curve visually for some reason, right?
Yeah, but then it's okay. Yes, Arwin. But at that point, it is no longer geometric. Yeah, something that you can classify, like if you hold up a beach ball and it's got a geometric edge for a horizon, and you say, yeah, but what I'm seeing, if I pour a bit of butane on it, is this position refracted into a different position. You go, okay, yeah, that is definitely capable of demonstration. You're right, Arwin. But, as Brian's stressing, and I'm now re-stressing, it is not geometric anymore then.
I agree.
What you're changing by pouring butane onto the cylinder is you're manipulating the light, not the cylinder. The cylinder doesn't change its geometry. You're not melting or bending the cylinder. You're manipulating the light. That's all you're manipulating. Geometry cannot be refracted.
Precisely. So when, in my ignorance, I told Quantum Eraser to use a less refracted image of the Black Swan oil platforms, his response was simple. I want them to say refraction. Why? Say it with me, Brian. Because if it's refracted, it's not geometric. Exactly.
Well, like you can't draw a direct geometric conclusion from optical refraction.
Perfect. You cannot draw a geometric conclusion from an optical horizon. Yeah, precisely. Bye-bye globe, bye-bye R, bye-bye Earth curve measurements, bye-bye assertion of heliocentrism, bye-bye everything to do with sphere Earth. That's correct, Darwin. Exactly.
Yeah, but hold on. Now you're just throwing it, if I may, you're throwing it back to semantics because that's just them misnoming it, right? No. They're analyzing optics and then putting geometric claims on that. Well, that's like I'm just going by terrestrial refraction with my paradox and all. And then it's like, yeah, visually it works out. But yeah, as soon as you go back to the raw geometry, yeah, you gotta like undo the terrestrial refraction. It gets all really weird and bendy lines and all that.
Yeah.
Right?
I just want to state, Nathan, Arwin stated at the end of what he was saying to you, he threw in at the end, and you missed it because you started talking, that we can calculate it as such. Geometry is not calculated. Geometry is measured. There's no calculation. You measure it or you don't measure it. Isn't that it? Sorry.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
You can calculate geometry.
Yeah, you can, but it doesn't then transpose into physical reality. So when you say refraction, that's the point. You're talking about optical effects, seeing things that are definitely occurring in physical reality. Now, when you calculate geometry based on refracted optics, you're not doing geometry anymore.
Right, but just to fuzzy up the point just a little, and then I'll drop it. Like, if you have an actual ball, like a beach ball or whatever, you can't literally measure the radius without destroying the ball because you would have to go inside of the ball with a ruler to do it. But you can still calculate it based on the rest, right? But that's still based on the knowledge that it is actually a ball, the confirmation.
Not the knowledge, the begging the question fallacy that assumes the outcome in the first instance. So when you assume that you're on a ball and then calculate something that cannot be measured, this is just dead from the off, Arwin.
Yeah. But it still works in the math. Sorry.
Yes. Hey, I owe you an apology, Riven. You there? You there, Riven?
Yeah, what's up, man? What's going on?
I moaned at you for clipping your mic, and then after the show ended, I actually figured out that one of my amps that's had a consistent problem and has been repaired recently, and I did know had a fault, but was very inconsistent or not very often occurring, had that fault yesterday. So when I was like, "You're clipping your mic," it's really no, it wasn't. It was my amp.
It wasn't even me, even.
So I'm sorry, I was wrong.
No, I did turn it up slightly at that point, so I thought maybe it was me, so it was correlated.
I knew you turned yourself up. That much I knew, but I then asserted that was a problem because it was clipping as a result. It wasn't. It was my amp distorting. So just so you know, I was wrong. You weren't. It was fine. My bad.
Feels nice, man. Feels good. Lovely. What's been on in there? Because obviously, if I can had a phone call, I took off the phone earlier.
You are actually a bit quiet.
Oh no! Here we go. Is that better?
That's perfect.
I turned it up a little bit. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, I had a phone call. What was going on today? Like, what's going on? What was the topic? Because I didn't get a chance.
We were reminiscing about when people didn't take apart the notion of a sky vacuum. Hey, I've got a members-only stream, right? And Mike808 has actually super chatted during the members-only live stream. Thank you for allowing members to listen in after show. No, my pleasure, Mike. You know, finding ways of expanding out how good the show is for those of you who are good enough to actually become members. So you didn't have to smash the super chat. You're a member. You're paying me to be part of this stream. But thank you for smashing the super chat. I was not expecting to shout out super chats right now. But thank you very much, Mike808. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we were reminiscing about how people didn't argue about the fake space bit of the travel to the moon. They argue about whether or not the batteries on the moon buggy will be capable of transmission, or whether or not you can push off a vacuum with a rocket. In other words, all of the arguments beg the question that you can actually travel to the moon. It's just whether or not you can get transmission back, and whether or not they lied about how the technology was capable or not capable of doing that through the sky vacuum that isn't being addressed. That was what we were talking about, Tommy, just so you know.
Oh man, there's quite a lot there. There's a lot to take in. I was picturing the moon reflector at some point. You're saying is that the batteries you're on about on the moon? Something to power the reflector.
There you go. Good example. So prior to the moon reflectors going up on the Apollo missions, they did that anyway. They could get reflections off it. So let's spend 20 minutes arguing about whether or not you can get this information to back the fact that you can bounce stuff off the moon, and whether or not reflectors were there to then get the laser bounce that they show with Brian Cox going to the observatory that does it to measure the distance with a computer screen showing a number that after a button's pressed comes up on the monitor. You know, that's what's actually happening. But if we're arguing about whether or not reflectors are needed in that equation, we're automatically begging the question of the distance, the sky vacuum, the capability of dropping them there. It's just whether or not the Apollo moon landings actually dropped the reflectors when they're obviously going to the moon, because they did in this example, and whether or not they did it before they needed the reflectors. If we argue about those things, we're not arguing about our fake spaces and how we'd all be dead because gas would be filling that area.
Yeah, true. That's the core. That's the core argument. That's the real argument, isn't it? That's where it all ends and starts. All right, that's why they hate that question, because it's
diversionary tactics.
It's so stupid. I still haven't even seen a ground-based demonstration that it's possible in the first place. Never.
You're on the inside scoop on the, seemingly wise anti-flat Earth rebuttal. So DITRH has sent me a message saying that somebody's going to be joining us, but he also forwarded on the presentation from the guy, and the argument, which is obviously anti-flat Earth at this point, if you're going to Dave and having bought his app and watched his videos and met the criteria to actually apply for the Bitcoin, he's then got one last stage to get past, which is us. But in his presentation, his argument is pretty straightforward. It's gas behaves like billiard balls when they run out of energy after being thrown up in the air. That's his argument.
Yeah, I've heard that. And Conspiracy Cat said something similar. He said, for me to show you the effect that eventually wins over that kind of like counter force. So it's like over time. So you throw it up, that force eventually gets won over, like a wrestling sort of match between gravity, and it wins over, and that's why it arcs over. So he's saying the same thing that happens with gas molecules. But I said that gas molecules don't behave like solid materials, like such as balls and the things that you're describing, that do have that any contention. So him using a solid material to justify how gas molecules work is just it's fallacious anyway. But just to entertain it, the only way he could demonstrate gas molecules actually coming back down to the Earth's surface, where gravity is the strongest, even though it's already left it, fucking God knows how many miles. For some reason, that molecule in motion isn't being acted on by an external force, which should remain in motion, but apparently it doesn't. Now they need the gas to come back down. They need that containment. They need the rest. They need gravity to win over that battle and pull that gas molecule back down to Earth. Even though it's moving in different volumes of space, revolving around the sun, as well as the sun is also moving in different volumes of space around the galaxy, and yet the gas behaves as if it's absolutely vulnerable for that, and doesn't behave as if it's got that problem against it. It behaves as if it's contained. It doesn't behave any different. So why we assume that it isn't contained because we've been told it? Well, I've been told it, but can you demonstrate it? No, you can't demonstrate it. So why do you believe it? Why do you believe what can't be demonstrated? It's what you can't see. We can't show you gravity. We can show you the effects of gravity. We can't show you curvature. We can show you the effects of curvature. We can't show you the moon rotating. We can show you the effects of rotation. We can't. You can't show nothing, can you?
Hilarious. Bro, you know why that's funny? Because I was just making fun of that in my head the other day. I was like, why is it all the things they claim? They don't actually claim, they just claim the effects of those things are real. Not the actual thing, just the effects. It's hilarious. It's so
Until
funny.
until you show the effects don't occur, and then it's, why would you, Mr. Flat Earther, expect this effect that the globe claims to show to occur, when obviously it doesn't, as you're pointing out? We wouldn't expect to see drift, the claimed effect that I'm going to now claim isn't going to be seen, even though the claim of the globe is that we'll see it. Why would you expect to see it, Mr. Flat Earther?
And as a matter of fact, show me a citation that we would see this effect. That we claim that I'm actually claiming we see. Show me a citation for that.
Exactly. Cite my claim that I'm denying we make when you prove it doesn't happen. That's the basic premise.
I don't know. No one can verbalise it like you do. You put it in such a way with words, like that is literally what they're doing when you strip it down.
Yeah, Simon Dan will always be tarred with that brush, though, tarred and feathered, because when he texted me, or whatever it was he did, tweeted me. I don't use Twitter, but happened to glance across it when I was sharing the show. I was like, what's this? Tweet from Simon Dan? Oh, right, okay. You and your reference frames have been ruined. What? I don't have any reference frames, Dan. The globe has them. 2 of them. 15 degrees an hour drift is supposed to be the consequence that we point out doesn't happen. But you're telling me that my reference frames have been ruined with an example that doesn't show drift? Wow. So you're telling me that my claim of reference frames, which I don't have, is ruined because I've shown that the globe doesn't have 15 degrees an hour drift as claimed. So you're going to show me an example with no drift, thinking you've got the win? Oh, wow. How thick are you? You basically don't understand the globe claim, otherwise you'd have realised how stupid it is to show me an example without drift when the globe claims you've got 15 degrees an hour of it. We just point out there isn't any. We don't expect you to then show us examples that don't have drift, justifying why you don't have that 15 degrees an hour that the globe claims you will have. Idiots. Cognitive pain does that to you.
Can I just point out that when we speak about the sky past the point of where high altitude balloons can go, we are begging the question. Because after that point, all data is based on sounding rockets that go out into space and send back a payload with data. So after that point, you're begging the question. So as soon as someone brings up anything past 30, 36 miles, anything past where a high altitude helium balloon can go, anything past that is make-believe, they're making it up, they have zero evidence for it.
Chris Berry in our Discord server. Hey, Chris. Maybe he's not around.
Hey, want to hear something silly?
I'd rather hear from Chris Berry.
I'll keep it really short.
Go on then.
Like this morning in my chat, Professor Phil Bell, after bragging that he worked with satellites and all that, he told me, yeah, your idea about the camera on the satellite, it's kind of stupid, you know, because like I don't know any satellite operator that is actually interested in what flat earthers had to say. So it's like, you just said you are a satellite operator, and you're like here every day in chats, and you're not interested.
Do you want to see? You guys want to see a picture of the thing that Professor Phil posted one day? I think it was in 24/7, and we're saying he actually put this thing in space. I'm gonna go find it. It's so funny, guys. Hold up. I'll be back.
But he told me he didn't know anybody that's interested, even though he himself is one, and he's hanging in flat earther chats all the time. And he kind of shut up after that point. But
projection followed by appeal to consensus. Nobody's interested in flat earthers. Nobody's watching this stuff, says commenter in my video. You're like, are you an idiot?
Professor Phil gave...
Hold on, just Riven, can you mute when you're not talking? I can hear
Sorry,
blip, blip,
sorry
blip.
about that.
I can hear you blip, blip,
Just
blip.
going off, mate.
Blip, blip, blip.
Professor Phil gave Brandon Toy and Jeremy and them a video of supposedly the launching of satellites, right? And they dropped, I think it was 1 or 2 or whatever, of these supposed satellites at the back of an airplane, right? And they just fell straight down into the clouds. And the amount of BS arguing he did to try and explain how they're going down to go back up. And it's like, there's clouds. How high are they? There's clouds.
Let me get this straight. They've got these multi-million-dollar devices that somebody somewhere has paid a lot of money in whatever currency to produce 2 or 3 replicas of this particular little device. And then it gets sent off to another compartmentalized department where they're going to put it all together. And eventually it reaches a point where they're filming it getting thrown off the back of an aeroplane. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and they fall down into the clouds. Clouds only go up about between the highest clouds up like kind of 6 to 8 miles or something like that. There's no clouds after that. It's still cold.
They literally just chuck it out the back of the plane.
Yeah.
what? So the Bermuda Triangle is all filled up with dead satellites, probably then?
Sorry, you're on 2 different panels at the same time. What's going on? Bermuda Triangle. Did anybody mention the Bermuda Triangle? Although that might tie into this story. I know that there's been references to, you know, the stuff that's getting launched from Cape Canaveral going in that direction, right?
Yeah, that's always been the suspicion that you can't go to the Bermuda Triangle because you end up disappearing into another dimension. But what really happens is that if you go there and see what happens when they're launching things, you get a bullet in the back of the head. That's what happens. You get
there and there's all these floating satellites and spaceships and shit just floating around in the sea.
Yeah, that the Navy are picking back up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a space graveyard.
Some bearded old guy on a boat sort of with a net trying to gather up all this space junk, going shh, shh, when he sees anyone.
Yeah, you and your little Cessna airplane gets blasted out of it.
Oh, funny stuff. Yeah.
You know, usually
Go on.
I was going to say, usually the magic they portray is not what reality. You know, usually when you find out the reality of it, it's a big letdown. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I've mentioned this movie a few times, but in The Prestige, they show you how they do it. You know, if you're going to get something teleporting, you need 2 of them. You know, that's how they do it. They show it you with the canary. So the trick works because the guy's got a lot of canaries, and the audience gets shown the canary. The member of the audience puts the canary into the cage. They put a sheet over the box, over the cage rather, and then makes the cage disappear. Now, what's actually happened is the cage is designed to clip into the table and collapse into the table so that it looks like it's just puffed, smoke disappears, cage is gone, right? Well, no, it hasn't. And the bird is still in it, in the table, but the bird's now dead because it's been squashed.
I hate that trick. I absolutely hate it.
Well, it's the main point of the movie, because when he goes to Tesla and gets the teleportation device, the condition that the trick depends on, when the rival twin guy that's got a twin finds out that he's doing this trick and how he does it, is by replicating himself. So he makes a copy of himself that appears in a different location, but then he's got to become the same as the canary. In other words, you can't have two copies of yourself. You've got to get rid of the first one to make the magic trick work.
Right,
So
but at least he's making the choice about it, right? The bird's not making that choice.
But the bird in the analogy isn't the movie bird. The bird is the NASA bird that flies through the air, be it a satellite or a rocket ship. You know, that bird, we don't see where it goes. We see it fly away, and then we cut to the shot from wherever's been, preordained to be the next shot. But, as far as the footage of that thing that we saw launch from the ground is concerned, that's the end of that canary's life. The bird has flown its last flight. Now, the fact that you see another canary coming out of the sky, that's got a story of burning up on re-entry because it's the same bird, yeah, it's not a difficult magic trick.
It's
good point. That's logical reason why they make copies of the thing when they do it every time. But yeah, at least a satellite is not an animate sentient being. So
growing up, the Bermuda Triangle was always in the news, and ships and planes disappearing. So it was always one of these topics we talk about. Hey, that must be like a ghost area or something. I mean, no, who would be silly enough to go over there knowing that so many planes and ships disappear? You got to be crazy to go over there. Meanwhile, NASA uses it for their trajectory. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's been used constantly by probably the Mexican cartels with submarines and the US Navy and everybody. So, but the only people that don't go there are the ordinary people, because they're told they disappear into another dimension.
Oh yeah, we can't go. Don't go there. It's dangerous for you. In the meantime, that's where we hide everything.
Yeah, that's where everything gets hid.
you think the cartel might be digging up the old satellites to harvest them for parts?
No.
Where'd you get that from?
I literally just made it up.
Okay. As long as we know it's you and you're in good condition mentally, I accept that.
Nathan.
Don't know what that was necessary for, but
no, it's necessary because you just made it up. And that's what you do as Baldwin. You make it up and you're better than them.
Baldwin doesn't believe satellites go down in the Bermuda Triangle. Your logic is flawed.
There you go, making up another thing.
I can hear the sound of your food in your mouth.
Earlier, I was listening to the show. I couldn't join at the time. And I don't know who it was. Someone came in I was listening in the background. Someone from Discord came in and said that they were told that gas pressure is created in a vacuum in a tokamak hydrogen fusion reactor. And I know you said, so they create gas pressure within a container. Do you know what I mean? And a vacuum within a container. But I can't believe that in 2021 that somebody is telling a flat earther that. That is, besides the fact that it's in a container, that is not gas pressure. Gas pressure is not created or held in place by electromagnetic toroidal fields. That is plasma. They fill the chamber with hydrogen, right? Then they heat it to the point of it becoming plasma. So it changes phases. Like, it might as well become a liquid, because this is different as a gas. Ionized gases is different from gas as liquid is from gas, because it has a different behavior. So, and they have a toroidal field on the bottom. So then all the plasma is attracted to the toroidal field and held in place. They need a toroidal field because they can't contain the plasma in that solid because it's too hot, it melts everything. So they hold it in place with the toroidal field. That is not gas, that is ionized gas. It is plasma, the fourth state of matter, not gas. So anyone who's telling you that is either, number one, a complete bullshitter, or number two, an unbelievable idiot. Now, I'm sorry, that annoyed me earlier when I was listening to it. I just had to say that.
No, don't get me wrong. It's a similar deal when we have people talking about rockets pushing off a vacuum and all this kind of crap. It's just like, what the hell are you doing arguing this in 2021? Really? I mean, it's getting that way with gas go down, go boom, boom. It's not prevalent enough for it to be, thickly permeating throughout the ether bullshit. It's just something that we talk about here. So when someone comes and asserts that gas go down, go boom, boom, you can kind of understand why, right? But in terms of gas pressure without a container, the only reason they're addressing the question is because they know the argument and where it's come from, and squarely putting the person with the rebuttal on the anti-flat earth side. In which case, slap, slap, slap. No excuse.
Well, in mathematics, you can place two variables on each side of the equal sign. So if you have a container on the left and a container on the right, wouldn't those two containers cancel out and give you gas pressure without a container?
They're saying if you have a container, that would be a way of achieving gas pressure in the way that we breathe it. Check, got that. And then you take another container, say a fusion reactor. Check, two containers. And then mathematically you say that on one side of the equation is the container and the other side of the container is the container, therefore cancelling each other out, leaving you with net zero containment. Correct?
Yes, or a pipe running up the side of your house. That'll do as well.
Fusion reactor, pipe, just second container in this equation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. If you've got two containers, that technically cancels each other out, therefore gas pressure without a container. I see where you're going with that. That's genius.
Net container zero.
Net container zero, yeah. I'd pass this on to Blue Marble in case he hasn't thought of it already.
Well, they do that with gravity too, don't they? They say you were experiencing net force zero.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
see, there you go.
1G, net force zero.
Chocolate, did you find that picture?
Nah, I got so many pictures in that freaking folder, man. I gotta go through it. That's why I didn't. And I'm still working too, so.
I thought Nathan got you fired.
Nope.
No, that company needs chocolate.
What, for the sweetness?
Who else
the
is going to answer all
for the
their flat Earth questions?
For the productivity.
I just got to brainstorm. I think I got the answer to my son's dilemma. I want Brian to talk to my son one-on-one, if you're up for it, Brian.
Cost is $5,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. He's got a high price. Holy shit.
I'll do it for 150 an hour, Neil.
He's not cutting me. We need that union.
Hey, wait, I got to get a flat rate.
Absolutely, Neil.
As a Glober, I'll do it cheap.
A flat rate.
As a Glober? Who said that?
Extremistus.
All right, you'll do it for how much?
I'll do it for free.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course, you poison-minded bastard.
Yeah, but you think you live on a ball, though, Extremistus.
Yeah, he wants to keep my son there. Don't you understand their mentality?
If we're going to do a bidding war, I'll start a bidding war.
Right, the almost entire Western world thinks as you do, though. So what is it you offer that's unique that would incite a bidding war?
Brian's $5,000. Nathan is $150. I'll do it for $25.
Yeah, but you missed my question. So we are flat earthers, and that is in opposition to what the majority of the Western world think, and you are in line with what the majority of the Western line thinks. So why would you be involved in a bidding war? What do you offer that's unique?
I don't offer anything unique. I just offer a cheaper price.
Okay, I will offer $0 and 0 cents for your zero uniqueness.
Hold on a second. He's not in line.
Consciously, they can't have anybody leave the cult. Nathan, you know that.
He's not in line with what the rest of the world thinks. He's in line with being against us and what we point out. So
Normally, John, before you hire a coach or someone, you have an interview and find out, not only the price per hour, but the content. So, extremists, let's see how well you do in the interview. Is the radius line curved or straight?
Can I just add here, Brian, you still here? You called it.
Yep. What is it?
Wait, what?
Nothing. In joke, let's say.
Oh.
You heard my question, extremist?
No, I didn't. What was it?
I said before someone hires a coach or someone who has knowledge in the particular area and has to pay a fee per hour, they normally want to know the credentials if they're good. So let me see in that interview if you're worth hiring. So is a radius line curved or straight?
I'll save you the trouble. I don't have any credentials.
Okay, then you don't have the job.
I'll take the job.
$35 is seeming high now.
did he not answer that because he believes that a radius line is curved? Is that why?
You can't imply that. He just successfully obfuscated the question by answering a different question.
Yep.
Is he going to answer it? That's the question.
The part I love is that he sat here. I mean, I don't know exactly how long he's been in here, but he sat here this whole time. We've been talking amongst ourselves. Nobody's chimed in. The one time he wants to chime in is when talking about pretty much re-indoctrinating somebody.
Correct.
And he's willing to do that for money, no less. That's pretty funny, extremist.
Never hear a word from him, right?
I'll do it for free.
Brian, you were so right.
No, I find it funny. Never hear a word out of it.
Hang on. The guy who doesn't know reference frames wants to do it for free.
Brian, do you want to point out why it seems crazy that they suggest a price, given that they align themselves with the entirety, or majority at least, of the Western world? Maybe if you explain it to them, they'll understand how silly it is to suggest a price, even if that price is zero.
Yeah, it's like you don't have anything to offer. You don't have any unique skill to offer. All you can offer is the exact thing that they already have. So it's like me trying to sell Nathan the exact same car that he already has. What would be the point? Not going to buy it.
Not even the exact same car. You're trying to sell him his car. That's how bad it is.
No, you're offering to paint the house that was just painted.
No, they're trying to sell me a car I've already scrapped.
Well, maybe.
But check out, you got the warranty now.
It's like a license on a scrapped car. Like, I got the license, I got my insurance, but it's a giant cube of crushed steel now.
What,
but I
do you
got
have
the license.
titles?
So, Chocolate, did you get that warranty because it's a pre-owned and you owned it before?
Who has the title?
So we're
I
talking
got
about
the title for my car in my house. Does anybody want to sell me my car?
talking about unique
If
selling
you ask that
points.
of,
I'll do it.
Right? If you're going to sell something, you've got to have something unique over and above other people who could potentially offer the same service, but for the fact that they have something unique. Now, in this discussion, we have a unique outlook on the world compared to the rest of the world. So when you say, okay, so you're saying, in this case, 150 or 5 grand for your unique outlook. Well, I'll do it for nothing. Hello, you don't have that unique outlook on the world. So your value is 0 in this regard. You don't have anything unique.
yeah, Mr. Sensible yesterday in chat asked me to come on his show, and Mitchell started to comment while I was typing in $5,000 an hour, and he chuckled.
Be sure to ask him up front.
An hour.
Yeah, it'd be a PayPal. It'll be sent directly first.
Yeah, that's even double my price. Well,
Yeah,
well,
well, I've done a
double,
lot of.
double.
I've done almost 2 years worth of research. I've bought hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of books. I bought a beautiful German-made sextant. I'm doing more research on a daily basis on topics based off of the initial research, and I've only just begun. So that's worth some money.
We've only just begun.
The carpenters. I was going to say, you're not a carpenter. Yeah, I think maybe maybe extremists and maybe Akenforce they could do is they could listen to the show a lot, and because they're always debating flat earthers, they could maybe offer services as a flat earther, but they're not actually flat earthers.
No, but I just still find it funny that you never hear a word from extremists until my son. I want him to get set up with a knowledgeable flat earther and a calm flat earther like Brian. Then all of a sudden he pipes up. I'll do it for nothing.
Yeah. Do what? Indoctrinate him back into the globe cult that he's already part of when he's on the Western world side of this argument. Yeah, that isn't really a useful service. You can get that anywhere for free. Oh, what? And you'll give it him for free? All right, that's really useful.
Well, I mean, if he's been introduced to flat Earth and the arguments for flat Earth, and he's taking an anti-flat Earth position, that's the minority of the minority, right? So maybe that might be some value.
Is that dumbass extremist still here?
No, he ran away after we asked him a question.
Only on the threat of someone turning to flat earth did he pipe up.
He's still there.
For money.
Dumbass. Oh my God. He's a dumbass coward. He thinks 8 inches per mile squared. This is a new thing. You just regurgitate this shit from 2015. 8 inches per mile squared. That's just an estimate. It's just good up to 100 miles. You frigging dumbass clown. You don't even know your religion, number one. And then yesterday it was 2 things. It was that, and then he still thinks counterclockwise and clockwise are actual directions. He thinks the stars spin in different directions in different hemispheres on his ball target. That's how bad it is.
Wow.
Extremists, really?
Sean Hawkins level.
Really, bro?
Yep.
What would that do with the flights?
Go back and chat. Go ahead.
I mean, wow.
Imagine flights on the globe then where the bottom of it is turning in a different direction from the top of it. They never get to where they're
they're retards. He's retarded, right? You haven't thought this through, have you? Extremists. You friggin' bozo. Just stay quiet and do your chat skanking. That's all you can do, clown.
He's definitely not coming back now.
Anybody else think the top half of the ball is of the imaginary ball is spinning in a different direction than the bottom half?
Unfortunately, my son.
Jesus, bro. That's a damn shame.
That's his main argument. There's 2 points in the sky.
Yeah, I'll do it with you if you want. If you want me to do it, Neil, no worries. No worries. We can call it a globe intervention.
Exactly. We'll set it up.
Yeah. No worries.
Setting
we'll
it
do
up like he wants it. Does he actually want this? I doubt it.
Yeah, so do I.
He will. I'm not intervening. I'm just going to give the phone to him and let him and Brian discuss it. I'm not even going to be around for it. I'll let you know when I go home tonight.
Okay.
So when I watched sailing videos and navigation videos, and those people on their sailboats say, "Okay, I'm going to do something I've always had on my bucket list," and the very thing they're doing is crossing the equator. All of a sudden, they're going in another direction, Brian.
No, they're going down the way.
Yeah.
Oh, you're there.
They're going down the way.
No.
What about
No, it's worse than that. No, it's worse than that. If that be true, then in the northern hemisphere in their Baltard, the sun would rise in the east and set in the west, but in the south, that would rise in the west and set in the east.
I mean, that checks out.
How's that? How's that grab you? Wow. It's like babysitting retards. That's what it is. That's what it's been for the past 5 years. Babysitting retards. Every single last one of them is retarded. Provably. In less than 30 seconds, I can prove each one is individually retarded.
Is
45 seconds with interruptions.
Is the fact that there's no more slobber nurses that I can find to hire a proof of that?
Slobber nurses, that's copyrighted.
I know. When I first heard that, I cracked up.
Yeah, that has to be one of the worst claims that's made from their side. That's right up there with gas moving in lockstep with a rotating globe.
Well, if that's the
another
case,
example of them not even understanding like reality, how that would work. I'm trying to apply that to their brain cells. Like, I don't understand why you think that one part of it, if the stars are rotating the way they are because we are on a spinning ball, and that's the reason that they're moving the way they seem to be moving, why the hell would you ever assert that different parts of this ball are moving in different ways based on the sky moving differently, actually moving differently, and not just based on your perspective? Like, are you insane? Like, you're the type of person I'd call medical assistance for, like, in real life. You have problems.
Reality is all warped with the globe, man. It's a normal hazard to deal with. You know, that's why rocket science is so difficult.
All right.
They're assuming antipodal positioning without being able to measure curvature. It's literally insane.
if the atmosphere is moving lockstep and it's a different rotation below the equator than above the equator, wouldn't people suffer windburn every time they were there?
Maybe some space-time discontortion or something. It's really weird, though, that the rotation is apparently different at certain regions. Must be some kind of space-time dislocation happening here on Earth.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Space-time dislocation. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, well, you know what happened? You know what happened if you walked as far as the equator? The two winds would have you spinning around. You'd be blowing around in a circle.
Pretty sure that's where the Coriolis effect was originally derived, actually, Brian.
What?
Antipodal winds giving you the Coriolis deflection as you spin around in the middle, trapped between them.
That's what I was thinking.
Me too.
Well, no one told that to the sailors who just kept steering the same course with the same wind when they did it.
Nah, the whole Coriolis deviation myth is still based on the assumption that gas just expands in all directions to fill the available volume and isn't subjected to a downward force so that it forms columns. Because if they'd realized that originally right away, then they knew that, yeah, columnized air that acts like a fluid would actually move in lockstep rotation with the Earth. But they didn't know that back then.
Right, like Narnia air forms Narnia columns.
Yes.
But their claim isn't that. That's the anti-flat Earth claim. Their claim that we have Coriolis effect, right? So the whole lockstep, that's in order to show us stupid flat earthers why we don't see this effect that we're supposed to apparently see. Apparently.
Did anyone?
I don't know why they're not updating the model either, top down. Why NASA's just leaving it like 60-year outdated physics and all that.
They need
the
how to debate a
anti-flat
flat
earthers
earther.
are just moving on the development, right? They're like
Because
60 years ahead.
The reason is because if we keep arguing over whether there's an 800 watt efficient motor or a 1000 watt efficient motor within any topic that they push in that topic, they'll keep us in that area because that's what they want to try and keep us arguing over, whether it's Newtonian or Einsteinian or whether it's a force or not a force, you know.
No, actually, it's worse than that. Go on, Kent. I'll go after you. Go on.
No, I said we have a mathematician in chat, Virus. Maybe he can help us with the answer.
I was wondering, right quick, it's on the previous topic. I just wanted to know if anybody had asked the Glober about the rocket taking off and when it starts to experience Coriolis, or if it does. Has anybody got an answer on that yet?
Oh, business. Anybody know about the transition from Earth and atmosphere giving you Coriolis effect for a rocket and orbital motion? Is there a claim laid out or citation in terms of the transition from globe to orbit in terms of Coriolis? Any news from that? Anybody at all?
But no, I can already answer that, because if it goes in orbit, that means it is not moving in lockstep. It's just gonna, because it's not being carried around with the winds and all
we
that.
know that.
It's outside of it.
Yeah, we got that. We're saying, is there a claim when the rocket takes off? I'll phrase it differently, Arwin. Is there a claim from NASA or anywhere else that states the absolute certitude of this globe Earth claim that we will see things drift at 15 degrees an hour from the ground when they leave the ground because Earth will turn beneath them? That is the globe Earth claim. But is there in existence a citation that says, yeah, NASA say here in this NASA citation, of course you'll see the globe's very specific claim that we'll see 15 degrees an hour drift if you observe one of the rockets taking off because they've left the surface and Earth turns beneath, like we claim. But is that something we can get hold of or not? We'd like to laugh at it and point out how it doesn't happen.
Point. Sorry. It's an interesting point. I don't think they've ever heard any mention of that. There's the story about the bullet and all that having Coriolis deviation, but no rockets.
Thank you for pointing out that there isn't anything specific, because that's just what we're asking for. Do you want to ask again, John?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because it's claimed to be going to this place that we know can't exist. At what point does it go into Narnia in their minds?
Yeah, but
camera switches.
Let me just rewind your mind back.
Background.
Hold on, Chocolate. Go ahead, Brian.
When you see the rocket and you see it arcing, you're seeing it all the time doing this. So you're able to visualize it all the time, making this big arc, right? So that means you're able to see it. So it can't be gone that far, that high away from you, if you know what I mean. I mean, you can see an airplane up in the sky, just barely, and you can see this rocket. So it can't be gone that far away from you. It can't be gone that high. So the fact that it is doing that and making that trajectory means that they're trying to at least employ the Coriolis effect.
No, they say that parabolic arc is because it is becoming parallel with the Earth's surface to be in orbit. But is like, at what point would it experience Coriolis? Since
orbital motion,
we don't experience it on Earth.
Yeah, but if we see orbital motion, are we not experiencing? What I mean is that if orbital, it's like, which is moving then, the rocket or the Earth?
What? From your
orbital motion has no relation to Coriolis deviation.
Yeah, it does.
at all.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. If it's claimed and it happens, which it doesn't, it's begging the question fallacy. But if it did, as they assume, then that would be, if you're observing the rocket from the ground, the orbital motion itself would be something you could observe a Coriolis deflection in. In other words, it's the not actual path that rocket takes as you observe it from the ground rotating beneath it. Now, that's perfectly acceptable within orbital motion when they beg the question of a sphere, Earth, and orbit. What we're asking for is, based on the claim that we're going to have Coriolis effect, absolutely in effect, that's the globe Earth claim, where is it described with a rocket? In other words, we want NASA to describe Coriolis effect with rockets, so we can take a giant steaming dump on it, Arwin. That's all.
That's a good point. I don't think I've ever heard any mention of that, which is really odd, because they could have grafted it into the story. Like, okay, we're setting the rocket towards a direction that's going to have maximum momentum, so it's going to be easier to stabilize its orbital trajectory because of the Coriolis deflection, etc. But I've never heard anything like that ever.
Precisely what we're asking for. But on that note, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, a massive thank you to the members watching this live. So, massive thanks for smashing the super chat. Bit of a nice surprise to get a members super chat from Mike808. So, another massive thank you to you for smashing the super chat. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!